If you've ever wanted to 3D print accessories for your sneakers, this is the video for you. This is the Nike Acronym Blazer, and it's a really interesting shoe. It's got a removable heel clip, and Acronym has worked with a bunch of different artists who have all made their own versions of this heel clip and made them available for download, so you can 3D print it yourself. Removing the heel clip is fast, it only takes maybe a minute or two, and there's a whole variety of these heel clips available for download that you can print out. It's a really unique idea, and it's the first time I've seen a piece of clothing that had DLC. It's just a really novel idea in my opinion, and I knew I had to buy one of these as soon as I saw it. Huge thanks to my friend Kyle Petrasic for turning me on to these. He likes sneakers as much as I like 3D printers, and he's got a great Instagram showing off some of his collection. There's a link in the description, I definitely recommend checking it out. We're going to get started by unboxing these sneakers. I'm also going to be 3D printing some of the accessories and also 3D scanning the shoe, so if you just want to see that, feel free to use the chapters to skip ahead. This probably goes without saying, but I'm not much of a streetwear person. I'm usually wearing some variation of this outfit, so shoes like this look a little ridiculous on me. That being said, I think these shoes are awesome, and I'm going to do my best to integrate them into my day-to-day wear. It comes with a little sticker of the shoe, which I think is really nice, and the overall packaging is top-notch. You get a lot of bang for your buck with this shoe in terms of accessories. It comes with two different colors of clips, as well as a dog tag that has instructions to use it as a screwdriver. Do not use a dog tag as a screwdriver, you will chew up the screws very, very quickly doing that. The shoe itself is distressed, and it has all these little cutouts which form the Acronym logo. Kind of a cool effect. You can see there's like a textured material underneath it. It's not for everybody, but if you don't like it, I think you could just put a little drop of glue underneath these flaps to hold them down, and that would help even out the look of the shoe. So let's talk about the clips, because that's definitely the coolest part of the shoe in my opinion. There are 3 bolts on either side that hold it in place. They're pretty easily removed, and once you pop them off, you can replace the clip with either the clip that came with the shoe or one of the 3D printed versions available on the website. The clips are a piece of molded TPU, and they attach to a TPU mount. This mount has 3 threaded brass inserts, and they have a little bit of flashing around the edge, so I'm guessing they're co-molded in. And interestingly enough, there is adhesive all around the rim of this mount. You can see it here, and on the bottom where it meets the heel, there are some pretty clear grinding marks, so I'm guessing there's overspray or over application of adhesive that's actually ground off from the part. So if I had to guess, I would say the whole shoe is designed as one piece, and this mount is actually just glued onto the shoe. You can see the same thing on the other side with all of the adhesive seeping out from the edges. The included clips are a piece of molded TPU, or thermoplastic polyurethane, very rubbery, and you can see the mold line pretty clearly, and they actually include a little bit of detail on the inside of the model. So here you can see BLZH 1213, so Blazer, not sure what H is, and 12 to 13 because these are a size 12. The clips register into place with the mount, and once they're attached, you can just bolt them down to hold them on securely. There's also a buckle that slips through the clip and clips back onto the shoe to hold it into place. It's pretty quick and easy to replace these, which brings us to the fun part, 3D printing our own. Acronym has released the STL files for a lot of these models to print out on their website. So to start with, I'm printing out the booster rocket model by Alessandro Belliero. It's awesome. I mean, come on, just look at it. It looks like so much fun. How can you not want to print this thing? The size 12 model is a little big for a standard resin 3D printer, so I prepared it on my Elegoo Saturn, a large format machine that's ideal for printing out bigger parts in one single print like this. I used the Prusament Tough Orange resin, and it's a really high contrast, it's really bright, and it worked perfectly for this print. You can see here that there was some warping on the bed, but that didn't actually affect the print itself, that was just on that initial first layer. After removing the support material, we're left with this model, and it looks great. All 4 booster rockets came out perfect. There's conduit running throughout it. It's got this ribbing on the inside of the model. I mean, it just looks so cool. The orange color was perfect for it. It looks very futuristic. It's a very cyberpunk kind of look, and I like it. I like it a lot, and it works great with this shoe specifically. And you can see once it clipped in, I noticed there was a little bit of an issue. The 3 bolt holes didn't really line up perfectly on either side. I'm not sure if this is scaling due to printing or if this is because the size 12 doesn't fit, and I'm not really sure what's going on here. There's only one file available for download, and it should be symmetrical left to right, so I'm not entirely sure why it doesn't fit. Could be a scaling issue due to the resin shrinkage. but I'm not really sure. It would take more prints to really diagnose it. Regardless, it looks awesome. Just look at this thing. I wanted to scan the shoe itself so I could get the geometry from the heel clip mounts, and I used the Revipoint Pop for this scan. It works really well at capturing geometry, and I wasn't really worried about the texture of the shoe. So here we can see the scan, and it looks pretty good. It's not as sharp as I would like it to be, and some of that is just caused by the meshing process, but the only real area of interest here are these mounts. So I cut away the rest of the shoe and isolated just the back. I also wanted to scan the heel clip itself, and I had two options, red and black, and I was having a little bit of trouble getting the red clip to show up on the scanner, so instead I used the black clip. Scanning dark objects can be a little bit of a challenge because they don't provide a ton of contrast. So here I'm using a matting spray to give it a little bit more contrast, and you can see how much easier it is to see the engraved logo after a quick spray. So after dousing this thing with matting spray, I went ahead and scanned it, and you can see right off the bat on the scanned model, it's not quite as sharp as the actual CAD. So things like the logo didn't really resolve very well, and it's not the best scan I've ever done, but for sizing purposes, it should work just fine. Some of the holes closed up during scanning, so I just used Mesh Mixer to boolean those out and cut a hole for the bolt to go through. Finally, I performed a smooth operation in Mesh Mixer just to give it a bit more of a uniform appearance, and then loaded up the heel mount. And you can see it's a perfect fit, so we know that this is going to work great. So now it's time to print it out. I printed this model on my Prusa Mark III, and you can see here some of the areas have closed up a little bit, and it's not quite as sharp as the original CAD, but for our purposes it should print just fine. With all this support material, it takes about 8 hours to print, and you can see it fits really well. There's one area on the clip that the scan line wasn't really sharp, so it doesn't line up perfectly, but generally speaking, it fits and you can bolt it on and it works. I wanted to download the original blank clip so I could modify it, but I noticed Nike didn't make it available for download. After looking at all the models they did make available for download, it became pretty clear that there was a blank template that artists were using to make their own. So instead of starting from scratch, I decided to take Tessa B. Johnson's model, which has a bunch of spikes on it, and just go ahead and delete all those spikes. Luckily, there was no union performed on this mesh, so these were all separate bodies, which made it pretty easy to remove them, which left us with the actual blank template. I downloaded a size 12, but you'll notice it doesn't quite line up with the scanned shoe, so we'll get back to that in a minute. But the model itself prints okay. I printed this on a Prusa Mark III with a ton of support material. I didn't want to spend too much time cutting the model up to make it printable, so this just seemed like the easiest solution. The model took about 8 hours to print, and while I was removing the support material, I accidentally cracked one of the struts on this cutout section here. It's not super noticeable, but it did kind of bug me. So it's really interesting. This is a size 12, but it doesn't actually really fit on the shoe. You can see the bolt holes don't really line up, and if you flip it over, you can see on the other side, it's actually a lot worse. And I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. This is a size 12 shoe, and this is the size 12 clip, so it should be a perfect fit, but there's definitely a gap. You can compare this with the original, and you can see it even looks really undersized. It's possible the wrong size got uploaded, but I'm not really sure what's going on here. So here's the weird part. I'd love to upload this model to see what other people can make, because Nike advertises this as being an open source platform. But when you download one of the models, it comes with a little one sheet that actually specifically calls out the license on each individual model. And here's where it gets interesting. They first specify a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike license, which means you're free to make modifications and post them so long as you don't sell them. But then it immediately changes and says by downloading this, you agree to abide by the license Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives, which is a completely different license, which means you're not allowed to upload any modified files. So this is not open source. It's like literally the opposite of open source. To be clear, I think it's totally fine that Nike releases these files under this license. These artists have put a lot of hard work into designing these, and they don't want people to modify them and claim credit for them. That's totally okay. It's just a little strange to see Nike advertise this as an open source platform when it's definitely not. I know I'm diving pretty deep into this, but it's because the misuse of terms like open source cause a lot of confusion with the general public, especially in the context of 3D printing, so I always get a little touchy when I see it used incorrectly. Overall, I think the Nike Acronym Blazers are pretty cool shoes, and they're selling out pretty quickly. So I got mine from the Dark Side Initiative, and they're already sold out of size 12s. So if you want to pick up a pair, probably do it sooner rather than later. You can get really creative with designing your own heel clips, and I think this would be a really fun project for anybody who's interested in sneakers and 3D printing. As always, thanks for watching, and have fun printing.